just thinking about Martha in jail, which is not what I thought we would talk about today, but she would have probably felt content with where she was at because her value system would be inspired by teaching. So the more that she can connect herself with other people in a very difficult time in her life, like that can fuel us. So I think that value work and understanding like what does light me up, what makes me feel like I'm myself, what challenges me, or what makes me feel out of sorts, like paying attention to all of that and learning those answers is really crucial.
Hello, my name is Brandy Hofer, your host of the Color Me Happy podcast. I am so glad you're here. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. If you want more weekly content just like this, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out on Instagram at Brandy Hofer Studios anytime. I'm happy to chat. That's where I sit. And I'm so glad you're here, and I cannot wait for you to dive in. So give us a like and subscribe and check the rest of our channel out.
Sure.
Because we're in your beautiful office today, which is the first time I've been in here.
Yeah.
So I'm pumped up.
Thank you for coming here.
Yeah. I just like anxious about it's recording. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Good.
Yeah. So we have Heather here. Can you tell everyone your title?
Yeah,
so I don't
for
F
sure.
it up.
For sure. I'm a registered social worker and counseling therapist with Joyful Living Counseling and Consulting.
Yeah, which I think the last time we had you on, your doors weren't open yet. Do you think that's right?
It might have been. I'm trying to remember the last time I would have come on. It's been a bit.
Did we talk about relationships and connection?
Yeah,
and
relationships, connection. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good episode.
Yeah, they're good ones.
Yeah. Your episodes are still the top listened to episodes.
That's so exciting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Enough.
And
well,
humbling.
not that interestingly enough. If you check out the topics way back in the podcast.
Yeah.
It's for good reason.
Yeah.
Subjects no one talks about.
Yeah.
But they should, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm glad to be here. And today it's funny that we're talking about it because we're both very guilty of taking on a lot.
Yes.
And being ambitious and burning out. So we both hit burnout a lot. But in the same breath, I don't want to discourage anyone from being ambitious or taking on their dreams. So I'd love for you to talk about some, self-care is such a blanketed term, but like some actual, maybe everyday or weekly routines that you can have implemented to, be able to still be ambitious.
Yeah.
And still take things on, but not hit that burnout crash stage,
I think I just want to address like the word self-care, I think has almost caused people to roll their eyes. Like even as a therapist, like what do you do for self-care? I try not to even ask that question because I feel like it's just
a blanketed term.
Let's figure this out in a different way. So it is tricky because I think burnout prevention and that kind of compassion fatigue, or when we are running on fumes, feels so different from person to person, and we all have different capacities and ceilings of where we might hit that. This year is probably the first year where burnout started to affect me in a physical way, and I've had like illnesses for weeks and TMJ symptoms that I'm currently combating, and all of these like really new physical signs that my body was like, hey, you need to do something. And so, because I'm in the therapy world and the self-help world, I know a lot about, okay, I need to exercise, I need to eat well, I need to make sure I'm sleeping, I need to have healthy friendships and relationships. So I kind of had this checklist of what I know. If I do all of these things, I will feel better. If I journal, I will feel better. I like to paint and watercolor, and I do all these things, I'll feel better. And I was still not feeling better. And so it was really frustrating because you kind of sit there and tell yourself, I'm doing all of the right things, but I'm still like, something still isn't fixed yet. It's still hard. It's still heavy. And So I work with supervision and my own counselor and things like that, which every person should. If you're a helper as well, it's really good to seek that external support. And we did a lot of focus on value systems. So if I make decisions to choose about something to be busy, like if I take on another commitment or say yes to a project, or even saying yes to Friday night and going out with friends, which can also feel exhausting, how does it align with my value
Isn't that
system?
funny? I always am like, you have like good intentions and you're like, we're gonna have the best time, and then the day comes and you're like,
Oh, I'm so tired. Yeah.
I actually want to have pajamas and go to bed.
Yes. So the work was really interesting, and I probably started it back in like May, June-ish, and did a lot of it over the summer this year, where I paid attention, like, what are my values, really like honed in on that. And then as I make decisions about next steps, how does that align with my values? Because then we feel a little bit more certain that this is what we need and this is okay. And it's not countering a value that you might want to protect more or might cause feelings of frustration or irritability if your value is challenged. And that was like a huge brain shift for me that went beyond, a bubble bath and a good book. This actually, which is great. And that's what we need sometimes too. But I was doing like I said, I was doing all of that and it really wasn't.
Like you're going to bed,
yeah,
but you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
Right?
Or I was going to bed and I'd sleep and then I'd wake up at 2 a.m. and I'd be like brain buzzing and sending myself an email so I wouldn't forget something and like things like that. So
I think we all go, like the audience can attest to, like we all go through periods like that.
And so then you do need, I feel like you do need whatever quote unquote self-care practices are good for you and feel good for you. And we all probably have ideas of what that means to each of us in different capacities. But then that deeper level of when I approach something, like one of my values is authenticity. So how I'm showing up to this space, how I am presenting myself, how, those kinds of things. Like, so if I'm making a choice, am I doing this because this authentically feels like me? Or am I doing this because someone is telling me to, or I am shoulding on myself and I should do this? Those kinds of things. So I pay attention to a little bit more to that piece.
I personally needed that advice today. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah. So if it aligns, it helps. And there's a really great book that I kind of worked through with my own counselor called Real Self-Care. And it goes beyond crystals and bubble baths is kind of the tagline for it. And I found it to be a very tangible read on how to reframe my brain on the concept of taking care of my mind, heart, and body.
Because it does show up in those physical ways. I have those retainers.
Yeah, I'm going to get fitted.
Fancy jaw grinding, TMJ retainers for like my whole, like it was frozen and throbbing. And it is that physical. And okay, so I have a question. I'm sure many of us are curious because there are things in life that we cannot avoid. I have 3 children. You have 3 children.
We do.
They are in extracurriculars, which is 12 occasions a week. On top of my personal ambitions, which, and my partner said to me, he said, you need to let something go. And I said, I'm not letting go of my ambitions because that is what keeps me going.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's most likely attached to a value for you too.
Yes. I believe in these things. They are part of why I get up in the morning. Yes, I care. That doesn't mean I don't care about my family. I do, but they're not everything I give, because if I gave and I didn't have my passion and ambition, I would be a shell of a person.
Yeah. I was just going to say,
I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy. So like, it's not like you can be like, well, we're going to skip all the stuff today. Like you've committed and your child's committed and whatever. Sometimes you can. So.
Sometimes you can, and sometimes you have to take a day where it's like, we are just having a family day. It's not, this week has been hell, like mom's on her period, like whatever symptom is ailing you to make you want to just wear sweatpants. And sometimes we do need to have those days. And then, fueling that decision with, I'm prioritizing rest, I'm prioritizing family, I'm prioritizing things that are really meaningful so that we can continue doing all of the things that we love to do.
So make it a boundary.
Yeah. And none of our kids are going to the NHL or the Olympics in my daughter's case. So it's fine if, morning practice doesn't get hit that week or whatever it kind of looks like.
But I even see my oldest son hit burnout all the time. And it breaks my heart because
that is hard.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, weird that he didn't want to go to school on Monday. Like he hasn't stopped. He didn't get to chill out. He didn't get to rest. He didn't get to, which we're all hitting Halloween.
I was just going to say, we're talking about this after the day after Halloween, and it's like...
It's coming.
The kids are tired tonight.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I feel like a routine implemented with sleep is it should be a solid, there's no real wiggle room on that one.
Yeah. And rest, I think, is such a huge piece of it, especially as women. We do need more rest. I keep reading about all these new studies, sleep hours used to be, or research used to be conducted on men. And so women are completely different in how much they need. And that's why I always get tucked in at 9:30 at night. My husband stays awake and it's great for us. But I think encouraging that within our family dynamics, we have a busy weekend this weekend. So where are we finding time where we get to rest as a family, whether that's just watching a movie or whether it's playing cards or whether it's being creative or something. So I think that language can be really helpful, not only for me to share with my kids, but for my kids to hear. And it forces me to practice it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we could just keep going.
Yeah. No, we need to. I feel like I'm constantly saying, it's my bedtime now.
Yeah.
And we all need to go to bed. I'm personally ready. Yeah. And because I do go to bed the same, 9:15, 9:30.
But you get up early as well, too, and take time for yourself in the mornings.
Sometimes it's weird periods of energy and I don't know, the moon.
Well, I have
no idea why, but
the seasons too, I think, impact us. And actually that makes me think of just what we're talking about in terms of self-care and burnout. We can be really good at waking up at 5:30 and journaling or going to yoga or prepping our day or sending emails or whatever that hour before the kids
get
up.
I love it. But it doesn't
feel so good. And then we hit a period where maybe we don't do that for a month or two. And it's similar to working out. We can work out 5 days a week and then all of a sudden we hit this time period or we get sick and we miss a couple of weeks. And so there's a mindset perspective, I think, that can come into play as well. Where how am I beating myself up? How am I speaking to myself about the fact that I've missed a few weeks of getting up early or working out or whatever that looks like? And it's okay, there's a gap. That's fine. I can just start again. So it's just not that I have to start all over. I just get to keep going. And it looks a little bit different. But seasonally too, I think we hit the fall and it's harder in the mornings.
Less daylight. Stuff like that. Totally.
But then spring rolls around and you're ready to get up early again.
Yeah. And that's fine.
And there's an acceptance piece for that.
We love our seasons.
Yeah.
So I guess going back to, your value systems.
Yeah.
So exercise is something I don't put in the time slot that is dependent on me getting up at 5 or 6 or whatever. Because sometimes it doesn't happen. So then I'm not setting myself up for failure.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I run the kids to school and then I do a loop.
Yep.
So because exercise is not something as a person who's dealt with depression and then definitely a high inability to focus.
Nicely said.
Thank you. And and mood wise, so exercise every day or is my time alone, my reset. And then of course so that's like for value system, like I fit it in where there's no way I can skip it that day.
It becomes a non-negotiable. And I really like that language of like, what can be your non-negotiables in a day, and how do you make those work? And so for you, exercise is a non-negotiable. For somebody else, it might be mindful eating or meditating or writing 3 grateful things down, like whatever it might be. Those non-negotiables, I think, are really crucial to highlight. And I wouldn't be like overachievers and have like 10, have like 2, or start with 1. What's your one non-negotiable that you're going to do every single day that is just for you, that lights you up, that helps burnout prevention, and then kind of grow it from there. I'm trying this exercise out when I'm done. So I'm doing practicum at the high school, which is an amazing experience. I'm still working at the center, and then I'm here, and sports and all the things. So
just like 3 jobs or whatever.
Yeah, accounting for the farm. Like, so speaking 4, of 5, overly ambitious, but yeah. So I have an end in sight. I get to fly to New Zealand when this is all done with my daughter and see my sister. So it's wonderful. But one of the things I'm kind of being really thoughtful and intentional about is, what do I want my schedule to look like when I am done school? When I have this space in my life that I haven't had for a long time. And so not just gonna like, fill it up with more, but being really intentional with, how do I want my days to look? How do I want my mornings to start? When I do get the kids on the bus, I love that hour, because that is the time that I think working out fits into my life as well. And so I'm typing things up, or I'm writing notes down when I think about it. And I want to create that day for myself versus trying to be pigeonholed into where I'm supposed to be. Yeah.
Do you feel like when you don't like set those intentions or write those things down, your day is subject to filling with, like things that come up, and then you're always like, it feels like you're playing catch up?
Yeah, I think intentionally choosing our time can be helpful. And you're making me think of my mom. She had a week off of work a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, I'm going to get all of these things done. And she had this massive list for the week.
Guilty of that.
Yeah. And she was like, I'm going to do all these things in these 5 days, and it's going to be great. And then by the end of the week, she's like, I barely got like a quarter of them done, because there were other things that popped up and things she wanted to do. And so she was more embracing where she was at. And so what I like to do is, like, I like to look at my day for today, and what is my priority today? What am I fitting in? And going from there, versus a massive list that I'm trying to accomplish in a 12-hour period that I know realistically just isn't going to
When I make
happen.
them, it's more like a to-do, and I know that I'm not going to, but if I get 1 or 2 done, I'm very excited, but it still needs to be there, because you need to mind dump it, I think.
Yeah. And gives you a focus too. Like, where do I want to start? What's the most pressing thing? Or not even that. What's the thing that my brain can handle right now, or my body can handle right now? And if I can't do anything, then what do I need to fuel those parts of myself? And that could be a walk.
Or maybe take the break.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which yesterday I knew, like, for an example, I knew I had 2 free hours in the morning, and I knew what the day looked like. It's Halloween, and I knew I was face painting with 62 students in the public forum.
Oh my gosh.
In the afternoon, with like students coming to the haunted house. So I knew, and we know in our schedules when, like, it's going to be a lot of energy for us mentally. And so I tried really hard. I did running around really early, and then I was like, take that hour or hour and a half and really do nothing. Like, so I put on the fire and I watched the Martha Stewart documentary.
Love it. That's so good.
And then I packed up, went and set up for that crazy afternoon, and then of course Halloween, and then our impromptu somehow garage Halloween party, and the aftermath of like getting ready, and then today, that like what it looks like. And I just left. I was like, it is what it is, but like I knew I needed to rest before that, whatever your rest looks like. And I feel like, do you, when you're sometimes alone, it's just, you do kind of nothing because you're like, oh, I haven't done nothing for so long.
Yeah. I'm also trying to fill that alone time more with like things that I really enjoy, which is currently reading and painting.
Nice.
And playing with that. So like doom scrolling is something that doesn't help with burnout in the slightest. So trying to get away from that. So I've scheduled like when I do, like it's for me, it's on Sundays and I wake up and I do my posts for my business. And that's kind of when I take some time for it. So I'm trying to be a little bit more structured with that. But sometimes I love that you were just like, I just put the fire on and I watched this documentary. And sometimes I think it's about how we speak to ourselves in those moments too. It's not, if we sit there and we're like, I did absolutely nothing, like I just, was a potato on the couch, like that isn't going to help our mindset for getting into the rest of the day. Whereas if we said I prioritized rest and watched this documentary and felt cozy and warm and safe and content, which is probably what you felt in that hour and a half. Maybe, I don't know, Martha Stewart documentary might not be safe.
I was fully just like rolling around and just enjoying it and like I loved learning. And Martha said this, she just, even in jail, like I wanted to learn something new every day. There's things I love about Martha, but there's things I don't.
I should watch it.
Yeah. Well, it's such an interesting story because she strived for perfection, but in my opinion, and in reality, there's no such thing as perfection.
No.
So putting that on people's lives that you have to live this like perfectly, whatever life.
In sync way of being.
Like this insane and be mean to people along the way. Like that I didn't really love about her personality.
Yeah.
But her dad sounds like a really cool guy. So watch the documentary.
I will.
But what I did like is that she's like, I'm a forever learner. And of course she's a good teacher, obviously.
Yeah.
And even in jail, it went through her. She inspired other women. She taught other women. Eventually, after, coming back from, being taken through a lawsuit that was really kind of sounded like a woman hunt. They called it a bitch hunt. Not a witch hunt, but a bitch hunt. I won't get into witches the witch hunt, because it was just, the narrative needs to be rewritten. It was actually, they weren't burning witches, they were burning women. So
yes,
anyway, that's a whole nother topic.
People, actual human beings.
Burning healthcare workers.
Yeah. It's just thinking about Martha in jail, which is not what I thought we would talk about today, but she would have probably felt content with where she was at because her value system would be inspired by teaching. So the more that she can connect herself with other people in a very difficult time in her life, like that can fuel us. So I think that value work and understanding like what does light me up, what makes me feel like I'm myself, what challenges me, or what makes me feel out of sorts, like paying attention to all of that and learning those answers is really crucial. Polyvagal work is really interesting too, where it talks about like our dorsal, our sympathetic, and our parasympathetic nervous systems and stuff too, and how we can target and what those feel like. So I kind of picture it as like there's a great way of like a red light, a yellow light, and a green light. So a green light is where we're in like our calm state, we're in control, we're focused, we're paying attention, we're like okay, and our nervous system is settled and soothed and feels safe. So what that can look like in someone's body is like no tension or limited tension in the body, that we have more open body language, those kinds of things would feel. Our heart rate is slow and steady, things like that. And then we move into the yellow light, which would be more of like cues that our body is becoming dysregulated. So agitation, heart racing. One of my clues is, actually this might be a red light one for me, is when my kids are like really at me, I'll hear like blood pumping in my ears.
Oh, wow.
And that's like a cue to myself, like, you're going to lose your shit. and you need to walk away right now. Like you need to go and regulate and come back down. So what can happen is we can have like this peak of like energy or agitation or frustration, and our nervous systems are kind of in like a fight flight response, and then we can drop down into our nervous systems, which tells us like we're shutting down or we're unable to communicate effectively. That's where we might doom scroll more. So it's just a really interesting way to pay attention to the body signs and symptoms that are very evident and very different from person to person.
And it's a lot of pressure because your children are watching you.
Yeah.
And they're learning how to regulate themselves. And like I'm a very reactive, emotional person. And a good example is after pumpkin carving was supposed to happen, but like with hockey and school and whatever. So Wednesday after school, the day before Halloween, I'm like, okay, I set it all up and whatever. I went to start carving the pumpkins, and I grabbed a steak knife, and Teddy's like, that's not a good knife. And I started cutting, and I cut my hand.
Oh, he was right.
He was right. But at that point, I'm physically injured.
Yeah.
Bleeding everywhere.
So your nervous system
There
is
was
on
no
high
way
alert.
I was coming. And somehow Carly caught it on, he watches us on cameras. Okay, it sounds like control-y. He's just like...
Not for Carly.
No, because, so let me explain my husband. He doesn't want to miss out.
No.
It's not like he's like watching us to make sure his wife isn't whatever, doing something wrong. But like at that point, he saw me. I went to the backyard and I screamed, which wasn't good because we have like so many neighbors. But I was dripping blood, and I'm just like, and they're of course like, are you okay? And like I was in fight or flight.
Yeah. And
I totally crashed.
Yeah. And then you would crash afterwards.
So he saw that on camera, and he texted me. He's like, I'm coming to get everyone. They can all come to hockey practice. And I was done for the day. But
that's so good that he can see that in you.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And support it, because I think sometimes what happens too is like in partnerships, we can often feel judged for our
this hasn't always happened, by the way.
No, you have trained him well.
It was a good thing, but and I could have been nicer about it for sure.
I feel like your camera in your home could be like a really good reality TV show. Cameras in your home would be like a really good reality TV show.
So
like I would watch
people
it.
Actually say that to us all the time.
Yeah.
Or not us, me, I guess, but yeah.
I can see why Carly probably watches it when he's not there. It's good entertainment.
Just like I get this crazy idea, and then we try to do it, and then it always fails.
Yeah. No, that's super good.
Yeah. So well, Teddy honestly could be watched all day,
the time,
and be clearly entertaining. But I mean, there are just going to be these times.
There are, and
shit, it's the literal fan.
Yeah, and then I feel like a lot of it for me for the last year has been like how I'm talking about it. So instead of keeping it all in, hey, I'm feeling burnt out, or I'm overwhelmed, or like tonight's not going to work for whatever activity it might be, is to be more open and vulnerable about those experiences, and instead embrace that side of myself, because then it just makes it a little bit lighter. And we can't, like, as ambitious women, as you described us at the beginning, we can't eliminate that side of ourselves and dull that side of ourselves, because it's not going to feel very good. So part of living that way is dealing with the repercussions of feeling busy and doing all of those things. So then how do we kind of cope with that and make sense of it? And for me, it's talking about it. And whether that's talking about it with my boss, who is wonderful about absolutely everything, or my husband, who is also wonderful about all of it and steps in and shares, and or I daydream about just learning to drive a combine, and that might be my time off next year
Yeah.
of like decompressing after grad school. We'll just go and learn how to drive a combine and put country music on for 12 hours a day. So,
Yeah.
which would be fine.
Yeah.
Temporarily.
Yeah.
Could never do that full time.
No.
It's not me.
Sounds boring.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. But it would be good though if you, like if you can take on combining and your partner can maybe, and that's something we can talk about, maybe a duty that you had or a task where you can ask for help.
Yes. So I don't know if we've talked about this before, but one of the things that I started doing for when my kids were a little bit younger, their birthday parties are different now because they're a bit older, is I started putting the RSVP number on the birthday invitations as my husband.
Me too. So funny.
I was like, I'm done. You can.
I love it. He complains.
Yeah, you can deal with all of these messages and tell me, how many kids are coming and deal with the text of like what time and where we're going and all of that. And it actually works really well because it eliminates so much of like that mother mental load that we end up carrying a lot of. And actually, I need to do it this year because for some reason he is not linked up on Edsby. But that's another thing is I'm always the one that has to do like the Edsby messages when the kids are going to be sick.
Steal his phone and get him on Edsby. Edsby is the fucking worst.
So like those little changes where it doesn't always have to land on one person that, texts the bus driver or marks some absence at school or does the RSVP for things like that. So
it should be a joint effort.
Yeah. So trying to find those little moments of this is going to come off of my plate today and it's going to go onto yours. Another thing that I've noticed too in the last year for sure that him and I do in terms of my burnout prevention, because I've been very open with him about that experience, is we look at the whole week on like Sunday or Monday nights. How are we figuring this out? Who is balancing what? And I'm transparent. I need to come home on this day. Like I need to finish my hours and I need to come home and do nothing. I have none of that built into my week. This is the only day that it works. So I'm not running kids that day. And it does mean that he has done more going into this season probably than he has before. But it's because if we don't do that, I'm not going to be okay.
Yeah, you're going to get sick. Which is worse, is not having a functioning
mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was sick for 6 weeks in January, February this year. And it just was not.
I manifested last year during that we were, I think we were
texting
sick at the same time. Yeah, we were texting at the same time. Yeah. And I just was like, I made notes for myself. I wrote it down. Go somewhere hot. Don't care where.
Yeah. Something like it was I couldn't believe it how sick I got. And so he remembers that. And so when I do say like, I need to be at home today. I need to not run the kids. How can we make that work? And if we really can't, then obviously I'm going to pull my socks up and we're going to roll together. But like, if we can make it work where I have time to decompress, then that's really important for us right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or go to that yoga session. Yoga is great.
I miss yoga. I haven't been able to go in forever. And that is a need right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love that space. I love it every time I go and literally get yoga for free because my sister owns a yoga studio.
Yes, that is a huge
perk.
perk.
Excuse in the book not to go to yoga.
No.
But I feel like it will be more realistic I still exercise every day. I do yoga at home. But once Teddy is in full-time school, I will have that morning free to once a week to do the yoga outside because it does take time. You are
bringing up a really interesting point where we have, and I think a lot of women do this too, where we have this like, if I just when we get to this point in our lives, things are going to be so much easier. I'll have more time.
I don't think it'll be easier, but I'll definitely be able to fit in that one yoga
session. And that's where like I keep thinking to this future when I'm done school in the spring of what I want my day to look like, because we can get to that what if time, like when Teddy's in school and you might sign up for another project and then you don't have that time. So then to be really mindful of, okay, I've been waiting for this free space. I've been waiting for this yoga class for a year and a half or however long it's been. I need to say no to this project because this was something that I've been dreaming about and wanting for my life.
Yeah.
Because I think that what if when, if, all those things mentality.
I'm not usually like that, but
you're feeling it.
Yeah. So it's just, you know, it's like realistically too, though. Like when I say I'm going to do something, and we talked about this before we turned the camera on, that is in my personality. Like I will do it. And I'm going to get back to swimming too. I used to swim once a week.
Yeah.
Destroys your hair.
Yeah.
Sucks.
But when you say, like, when you commit to something, and I think the community sees this in you too, when you commit to something, you do it. Mm-hmm. Like there isn't turning back. There isn't, hitting a wall and stopping. Like you hit the wall and you figure out a way around it. And so that is something that is very admirable in you. It is also a hard thing to kind of cultivate and keep going when you do live that way, because then it's like you're saying yes to this, but there's also things that might not get done because of that.
Yeah, for sure. And that does happen.
Yeah. I was talking to someone the other day, and it's like some of us we're juggling, right? So you have rubber balls and glass balls. Yes. You have to drop. Who did
Wendy
I talk
Plandowski said that at the women's.
Is that what it was? Because I wasn't at that.
You weren't there.
Maybe somebody was there and told me about it. But I think that's such a cool.
I love that
analogy.
Can you explain it to everyone?
Yeah. So we're all juggling tons of balls, and we're going to inevitably drop some of them, because I don't know if you know how to juggle, but I could juggle two. Like if I
can't juggle
1, 2, like that's it. If we're going to drop any, we try and drop the rubber balls, because they're the ones that are going to bounce, whereas the glass balls are the ones that are going to crack or shatter or whatever it's going to look like. So even to pay attention to, I love art therapy and things like that, where you could paint a bunch of circles and have some of them be representative of rubber ones and some of them representative of glass ones, or, bubbles that can pop easily, and label them like, what are my rubber balls? What are my glass ones? And how do I make that fit into my world? I like visual representations of things. So that would be a neat one.
I just had Leah Guzman on my podcast. She's an art therapist, and I
listened to the whole thing, and I have ordered all of her books, and she is amazing. And the resources that she has for art therapy
that are free even.
She is. Yes. I'm really excited for her newer one that's coming out next month for the youth.
I have to order it, but
I've ordered it.
Like pumped up about it.
Yeah.
I was calling it her program because I thought it was a program. She's like, it's not a program, it's just a book. But it could be a program. I was like, it best totally be a program soon.
Yeah.
Get that going.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a program, because she said she had videos. Did she not say that in the podcast?
She did, but I think just to help guide you. But I think as a practitioner, like working with youth, I would be able to incorporate those into sessions really easily.
Right. So she should charge for a program. I'm just going to re-email her. You should charge for your videos.
But like being creative with this imagery that like Wendy talked about, we're going to give Wendy credit here.
Yeah.
That Wendy talked about, giving imagery to some of the things that we're trying to sort out helps our brains settle and soothe into it too. So if I can physically name what my rubber balls look like, what the glass ones look like, and give them colors and texture and like a visual representation, it moves it from being stuck and wild in my mind and onto a piece of paper that helps me, coordinate a plan or think about things a little bit differently. And art therapy is amazing.
Art therapy is amazing.
Yeah.
Or everyone should just make art.
Yes. I'm taking my expressive arts therapist certification right now.
Of course you are.
But it's really good. Really, really interesting stuff that I get to bring into sessions with people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I implement it. I'm not a therapist, but I implement it into Art Academy every single day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No one cares if I'm certified or not, it seems.
Well, and I think the whole foundation, like to call yourself an art therapist is one thing, but to be creative with your day, like that would be one of my values, is if I can look back on my day and say I was creative in some way, shape, or form, that helps me feel like, okay, I had a non-negotiable. I was able to meet what I wanted to today. And sometimes it's as simple as like this week I've been painting cute little pumpkins and bats and with students, and on my kids and sharing things. And I've been secretly giving them to teachers and other counselors and leaving them on their desk because I'm just like, I was creative. I don't need to keep this because it was an experience. But what can I do with it that might just inspire somebody else to feel creative? So,
or lift them up, or
that lights me up on a busy day to know that I made somebody smile and they don't know who it was from.
We talk about that all the time. I talk about that with kids all the time. It feels 60% better to give a gift than receive a gift. But gifts aren't always a physical thing. They can be, we just talked about this again in Art Academy. On like, they can be a kind word, because we were working on making magical reading wands with the kindergarten classes in the library. So I want you to use your kind words and encouragement when you're working with the tiny artists, because it's going to be such a big deal for them. And they were, and it was so cool to see. And I want to talk about, because we have a lot of creatives that listen to the podcast, and I see in you like strive to get creative every day, and it's like it's your must. And for me, and why I want to talk about this is because we change as human beings, and our goals and values and everything, they evolve with the person you are and who you're becoming. And I made art for so long that I, at this season of my life, am so uplifted by showing others how to connect with their art, as opposed to feeling that I have to make the art. It's such a weird, and I'm trying not to be hard on myself about it, because it actually is okay. And I make it from time to time, but not a lot. Like, people probably think I paint all the time every day, and I just don't. I'm so busy, and I'm okay with it. Showing other people, kids, adult, everyone, like through online education, through the podcast, through Art Academy, and that makes me just as happy.
What value do you think that is for you?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll write it down. No, I don't know.
It sounds to me like a lot like connection, because you're connecting something that is so meaningful for you, and witnessing how that connection lights up another person.
Not even that, but millions of people online. Like, that's a cool. There's some people who are super fucking mean about it. But there are millions who are super fucking great about it.
They're great about it.
And
like, I love your messaging, and I think that's what sparked a lot of the things that I do creatively, of just like make bad art.
The collaging thing, like, I needed that week. So when I need it, I do it.
Like, and that little collaging thing I have been doing as postcards for people. And so I'll choose like stickers and paint and color, and I just like make whatever I think is going to make someone smile for the day or resonate with them, or I don't know, whatever it is. But I love the concept of bad art, because I'm not an artist. I like it and I like to play with it, but I will make a lot of bad art. And so now I have just like this bad art journal that when I'm in class and I'm annoyed by something, I just scribble and I make terrible pictures.
I had a sequence built. I built it. I spent 3 days building it and it was called Making Bad Art. I just haven't launched it. Like,
I think I
should relaunch it.
You should. And I think it's really validating for people who maybe want to be creative or want to try something new as a self-care option, but feel like it has to look a certain way. And sometimes it's just about doing it and not about what it looks like.
The end result.
Are you breathing through it? Are you slowing your heart rate down? Are you noticing the sounds and the smells and the textures merging? Like that just type of present way of being can be
and our culture
helpful.
Is so result driven.
And so to let go of that is also a really interesting brain shift.
No, I definitely should put it back out there.
I liked it. I could be the one person, but
it had like 5 activities in it. And it was like collage, or try this, or move paint around with some stuff. It is fun. I should revisit it. It's a good reminder. Well, I hope everyone I think people did. We got a lot out.
I think so. We kind of went, Martha Stewart, non-negotiables, values, kids, Carly.
Yeah.
Carly always shows up in our podcast.
Poor Carly.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
And I guess Gene does too. He comes in a lot as well. But
how could they not?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. And if you have any questions, just message me at Brandy Hofer Studios on Instagram, and I will put Heather's info in the notes. But
thank you very much.
I hope this is still recording.
If you want to feel empowered and inspired, like and subscribe for more. And if you want to get creative, check out all our art hacks on this channel.